This is English shorthand dictation number 311 and the dictation speed is 120 words per minute. Ready? Start. In sum and substance, what Proviso 4 to Section 92 provides is that where a contract or disposition not required by law to be in writing has been arrived at orally, then subsequent oral agreement modifying or re-signing the said contract or disposition can be substantiated by parole evidence and such evidence is admissible. Thus, if a party has entered into a contract which is not required to be reduced in writing, but such a contract has been reduced in writing or it is oral, in such situations, it is always open to the parties to the contract to modify its terms and even substitute by oral contract, and it can be substantiated by parole evidence. In such kind of cases, the oral evidence can be let in to prove that the earlier contract or agreement has been modified or substituted by new oral agreement. Where under law a contract or disposition is required to be in writing and the same has been reduced in writing, its terms cannot be modified or altered or substituted by oral contract or disposition. No parole evidence will be admissible to substantiate such an oral contract or disposition. A document for its validity or effectiveness is required by law to be in writing, and therefore no modification or an alteration or substitution of such written document is permissible by parole evidence, and it is only by another written document the terms of earlier written document can be altered, rescinded, or substituted. There is another reason why the defendant or appellant cannot be permitted to let in parole evidence to substantiate the subsequent oral arrangement. The reason is that the settlement deed is a registered document. The second part of Proviso 4 to Section 92 does not permit leading of parole evidence for providing a subsequent oral agreement modifying or rescinding the registered instrument. The terms of registered document can be altered, rescinded, or varied only by subsequent registered document and not otherwise. If the oral arrangement as pleaded by the appellant is allowed to be substantiated by parole evidence, it would mean rewriting of Exhibit 1 and therefore no parole evidence is permissible. In view of the aforesaid legal position on interpretation of Proviso 4 to Section 92, we have to examine as to whether settlement deed was required to be in writing under the law or not. Where there is such conferment of title to the property, law requires it to be in writing for its efficacy and effectiveness. A document becomes effective by reason of the fact that it is in writing. Once under law, a document is required to be in writing. Parties to such a document cannot be permitted to let in parole evidence to substantiate any subsequent arrangement which has effect of modifying earlier written document. If such parole evidence is permitted, it would divest the rights of other parties to the written document. We are therefore of the view that the subsequent oral arrangement set up by the defendant or appellant cannot be proved by the parole evidence. Article 81 1A prescribes an absolute limit of 500 elected members in the House of the People. Article 81 1B provides that the states shall be divided, grouped, or formed into territorial constituencies, and the number of members to be allotted to each such constituency shall be so determined as to ensure that there shall be not less than one member for every 7,50,000 of the population, and not more than one member for every 5 lakh of the population. The present delimitation of parliamentary and assembly constituencies is based on the estimates of population which have been given legal validity by an order of the President under Article 387 of the Constitution. Article 81(3) of the Constitution, however, requires that upon the completion of each census, the representation of the several territorial constituencies in the House of the People and the legislative assemblies of each state shall be readjusted by such authority in such manner and with effect from such date as Parliament may by law determines. A bill providing for the matters referred to in that article is being introduced in Parliament. Provision has been made in that bill for the setting up of a delimitation commission for the purpose of effecting readjustment of the representation in the House of the People and in the state legislative assemblies on the basis of the population as ascertained at the census of 1951. There is a considerable difference between the people of the several states as estimated in the president's order and in the population as ascertained at the census of 1951. At present, seats have been allotted in the House of the People to Part A and Part B states on the basis of one member for every 7.2 lakhs of the estimated population, giving a total of 470 members to these states. The census figures are higher in all cases, and in view of the overall limit of 500 members prescribed in Article 81(1)(a), it is not possible to increase appreciably the total number of seats allotted to these states. It is accordingly necessary to reduce the representation from one member for every 7.2 lakhs of population to one member for every 7.5 lakhs of population as per census of 1951. As pointed out above, this figure 7.5 lakhs is the maximum permissible under Article 81 1b as it now stands. But even so, if the average population of a parliamentary constituency in any state is to be 7 lakh 50,000, it is obvious that the population of a certain number of constituencies will exceed that figure. It is necessary, therefore, that Article 81 1b should be amended, relaxing the limits prescribed in that article so as to avoid a constitutional irregularity in delimiting the constituencies for the purpose of readjustment of representation in the House of the People as required under Article 81(3) of the Constitution. This bill accordingly seeks to amend Article 81 1b of the Constitution so as to replace the figures mentioned in that article by the figures 8 lakh 50,000 and 6 lakh 50,000 respectively.